What's up, chat? It's Tuesday. We are once again, as we do every Tuesday, getting tactical. How's it going? And this weekend we already talked about London GT yesterday, but we have more to talk about from this weekend because this weekend was one of the most crazy weekends for Warhammer 40k in recent memory. We had not only the largest event of the season, doubling the size, or just about doubling the size of the Las Vegas Open that's occurring this year because Las Vegas Open, we're doing LVO 2.0 now in October rather than in February, which is coming up next weekend. However, it's only about 600 players this year, so almost, or a little bit over half the size of the LGT. But we also had the largest event in North American team play, I think, ever. It was a 66-player, 8-player team. I guess ATC is probably larger from a raw player standpoint, but in terms of total teams, I think it is it's probably a lot smaller because these are teams of 8. It's 66 teams of 8 rather than a bunch of 5s and a bunch of 8s all jammed together. I'm not sure, though. I have to do some math. I'd have to run some numbers, and that's too difficult. I don't know how numbers work, so we're just gonna go ahead and vibe, I guess. But welcome in, everybody. Bluffkin, brand new to 40k, been consuming the content. I appreciate that, man. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good time with this amazing miniature game that we are all somehow finding ways to enjoy. And I hope you're having a great time in the community. If you haven't already, joined the Discord server. Obviously, we're helping out new players over there. We got a mentor section, so you can ask questions if you have any particular ones. But we also have, obviously, lots of events and things. I think that we will be probably running a new player event pretty shortly here because we did just launch a big, huge 100-player GT in the server. So if you are looking for major level play at online, then obviously that you can go check that out. So it's just going to be big. You just roll dice? Oh, is that how the numbers work? How many players is this event? Is it larger than the other one? On a 4+, it is. We did it. Incredible. All right, chat. Let's go ahead and talk about the Challengers Cup 2025 and go through some Team 40k because we do have some interesting results from this one to discuss. Here's an interesting thing that happened, though. You may notice that this event was held in Salt Lake City, Utah. I do want to give them a shout out. They did ask me to go live stream. Unfortunately, I have not traveled west of Texas yet for live streaming, and my logistics for that is a little bit difficult right now. They weren't able to get me out there with all of my stuff because I would have had to fly, which I'm not 100% sure quite how to do yet. So I wasn't able to catch this one live, and I do apologize for that. Shout out to them for asking me out anyway. I appreciate that. But unfortunately, it wasn't in the books this year. I do want to give a shout out, however, to Barely Battle Ready. Friends of the channel. We raid each other all the time over on Twitch. These guys do weekly game days, essentially, where they'll just live stream a bunch of games all together a couple times a week. And they streamed the Challengers Cup. Unfortunately, it is difficult to get traction on Twitch for live Warhammer 40k. There's not very great discovery on Twitch, so I don't think that their chat was enormous for the weekend. So despite the fact that it was one of the largest team events sort of ever held, at least in North America, they didn't have a huge number of people over there. And so please go show them some love over on Twitch. I will show.
Bucket of Steel Cable donated $2 Canadian and 79 cents through Super Chat. Time for your daily Mechanicus talk, Turtle Boy.
Bucket of Steel Cable, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Daily Mechanicus talk. Well, if Mechanicus keep doing how they're doing recently, then it's gonna be every day is Mechanicus talk, basically. So yeah, big shout out to them for live streaming this event. But here's the other thing. It was held in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's a North American event. And if we notice, the fuck happened here? U.S. players, Art of War losing a round in a team event? Unacceptable. Absolutely unthinkable. Going down to Team Australia. Insanity. Who traveled all the way across the pond to come and ruin everyone's day over over here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I think maybe they were like used to the climate. So unlike a lot of US players who are moving over to what is essentially a dry, flat desert, I imagine the Australian team sort of came over and were like, aha, it's our native environment. We're already acclimated. Let's go. Immediately killed everyone and went 5-1, 5-0-1, excuse me, beat everybody on tournament points. Incredible showing, by the way. I think I want to talk about, I believe this was round 2. This pairing happened. Team Australia versus Get Good. Get Good scored 6 points or 16 points. 16 points across 8 games of 40k. Oh my God. That is differential scoring, however. It's not 16 victory points. It's 16 difference in 5s of victory points. The games, I'm sure, were much closer than that. But that is one of the most dominating results I've seen in a team event in a really long time. RIP Team Get Good, I guess. But yeah, that's who we're going to be discussing today is the Australian team who is absolutely dominant at this event, which is wild. Now, I love to see it because most of the time when we see these large, huge team events in the US, many of which I've live streamed because I am the streaming partner for NTL and ATC. A lot of times Art of War shows up and that means Art of War is going to win. So I love the fact that the world is coming to our rescue. Please, the rest of the world, we need your help to break the Art of War dominance of North American Team 40k. And Team Australia, the beacons were lit. Little men ran up to the tops of the mountains carrying a torch, and they lit the huge bonfire full of oily wood and down the chain, down the majestic line of New Zealand mountains, so that they answered the call and came to actually defeat Art of War in a game. So that's very exciting. So anyway, let's talk about what they did it with, and this list composition is crazy. We have a ton of very aggressive, high-scoring lists in this comp. Now, we've kind of come off of a metagame in Team 40k of it being this hyper-tank sort of defensive skew meta, where you had teams playing 2, 3, or in some cases even 4 armies with multiple super heavies, whether that's Imperial Knights, Chaos Demons. Sometimes you even saw things like Imperial Guard super heavies make an appearance as well. You saw, in some cases, some Space Marine lists that were very defensively oriented, lots of T12, high save characteristics, lots of, big tanks on the table, and basically trying to get a team into a position where, as long as those armies can score reliably into a lot of matchups, you can usually, with a mass number of them, position yourself to get those armies into matchups that your opponent basically cannot win. There are some, at least in the previous metagame, pre the update, there were some armies that just hit a knight faction or a defensive skew faction and immediately lost. They just got 20-0'd and there was nothing I could do about it. Like Tyranids into knights was a really good one, right? Tyranids are high scoring, they're very maneuverable, but they have literally no damage output. And so you would rock them into knights and they would just, the knights would go on all the objectives and the Tyranid player would just like go to sleep and die. Now that knights have been dramatically rebalanced, we are kind of in a no man's land right now in this huge question mark of what the metagame looks like. And in this case, it looks like we are basically focusing very heavily on playing a bunch of high consistency scoring armies, which just means that almost regardless of what our matchups are, there's obviously a couple like silver bullets we can put in there. Things like Aeldari have really, really spiky matchups into some stuff where they don't want to see like indirect fire, mass light infantry sweeping. But if they hit something like knights or these heavy armor skews, they just kill them with fire dragons immediately. So there are some armies in there that are going to want particular matchups. However, most of these are going to be very good at taking the middle of the table, spreading utility units around everywhere, and consistently getting high scores regardless of what their matchup is. So that's really cool and interesting. Now let's talk about exactly what we're looking at doing this with. Maybe after a certain number of wins, we ban them from tournaments. No. I think we take a page out of our third place players here, chat, or excuse me, fourth place players, and we just tell the rest of the community to get good. Here's the deviousness of the Art of War game plan, though. As soon as a player gets to the level where they will start to compete with Art of War just pays them, and so they join the team. It's honestly, it's flawless until they hit someone that they can't just incorporate into their own team, which is someone who lives in Australia, apparently. All right, so we are talking about some lists. Let's get in there. Started with Alex Terrison rocking Orky Boys, a Bully Boys army. It's triple war boss. One of them is named, or some of them are named, I guess, which I guess is neat. Mega Armor War Boss plus Truffle 1. Okay. Zodgrod Wurznaga. Now, I don't believe that the Zodgrod unit gains the second WOG, right, that Bully Boys can call. So Bully Boys gets its normal WOG, and then later on in the game, right, you can WOG afterwards, and it gets that for all the War Boss and Nob units. So things like the Mega Armor War Boss and the units that the War Bosses are joining are going to get the second. Oh, excuse me. Got something in my throat. Damn. The benefit of the second.
Ryan G donated $5 through Super Chat. Do you think new gas makes Green Tide viable?
I think gas makes Green Tide viable. I don't think it changes that much, to be perfectly honest. Because if you are spending all of that work to deliver gas, you almost might as well just do it in War Horde, where he's just faster and does more damage, right? So I don't like I'm not super high on Bully Boys right now. I also or on Green Tide right now, excuse me. I also think that right now there's kind of a predominance of Blood Surge movements in the metagame, and one of the really powerful parts of Bully Boy, or I'm fucking slipping, of Green Tide, not Bully Boys, of the boys that are not bullies, but of which there is a tide, was the fact that they had the strongest Blood Surge in the game, and that people were generally unprepared for Blood Surges. And I think neither of those are true anymore. Obviously, their Blood Surge has been massively nerfed. Blood Surges in general have been massively nerfed. And everyone knows what they do now. And so, like, there was this real spike when the Orc Codex came out of people who just got cracked in the face by Green Tide because they had no way, like, conceptually to deal with Go Get 'em. And so something would happen, the boys would move, you would just get engaged, everything would die. Now I think people are prepared for that, and they're ready to fight against that. To the point, I think that I'm not even sure if I necessarily think that, despite the fact that Go Get 'em was really stupid, and there was like a lot of really dumb stuff you could do, like fall back out of melees with it and stuff, which is like super, definitely not intended play. But to the point that I don't know if Green Tide was necessarily as strong as I think people gave it credit for. Because I mean, you just watched everyone for the first month or so just walk into Go Get 'ems constantly. And I think that just really like pushed the win rate up on an army that was like pretty eminently counterable. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm super high on Green Tide right now. I think that you could just play War Horde if you want to play Gaz, and it feels really, really good in War Horde. Or even in Bully Boys, right? Because he's a War Boss, so he gets the second WOG as well. Plus, you get all the Makari synergies, the lethal hits 2 times in a row. I think there's better places for him to be. Problem with Green Tide, it's a coin flip game. Can they kill you? Yeah. I mean, that's it. Classic, right? Defensive skew, right? You're skewing like a T5 body. If they can counter the defense that you're bringing, you just immediately fall apart. All right. So the interesting thing here is that I think Zodgrod is always a good inclusion. We have the 20 Gretchen unit with Zodgrod, so they get a big scout move, and then they're really hard to deal with in the midboard. But the thing that hypercharges them is when you can WOG early. And so there's a hot minute where you're playing Tactical Brigade, you're playing Dread Mob, and the Zodgrod unit could just eat the WOG on like turn 1 or turn 2, because the rest of the army didn't really need it. Or not Tactical Brigade, sorry, more DACA. The ranged focused Orc detachments. And so oftentimes you would see Zodgrod in those lists, not only because he's a really good unit, and you had Gretchen synergy usually in those detachments as well. But the other thing was that you could afford to just burn the Wah to make Zodgrod's unit go absolutely insane, because he improves their movement by 6 on the Wog turn. So this unit goes 9-inch scout, move 12, advance charge. They're -1 to be hit, -1 to be wounded, 5+ the vulnerable save, and that unit basically just walls your opponent into their deployment zone. The downside is if you're playing War Horde or you're playing all these more combat-oriented detachments, you can't burn your Wog like that, because you just lose so much damage output that it's GG. However, we don't have that problem in Bully Boys, because we can burn a Wog early to get the value out of Zodgrod and then save the second Wog for when the Nob and the Warboss units get stuck in. So assuming we can, I guess we probably have a little bit of utility here. Maybe we have some Nobs, maybe we have some Mega Nobs that could get in on someone early, get a little bit of value out of first Wah, but then you get that huge movement bonus on Zodgrod's unit, and you get Zodgrod to jail your opponent. That lets you set up, and then you could hit them round 2 across the entire front line of their army with all of your Nobs. The other cool thing is that we have all of these Mega Nobs, right? And the Mega Nobs become it's not as crazy as it was previously, but they are significantly more difficult to kill on the Wog turn. So you can also use them to stage very aggressively in a position where they're benefiting from their Field Pain and their invuln saves. So you can basically jail your opponent, put these guys on all the objectives. Your opponent's unlikely to kill them all, and then you still save a Wog later so that you can actually do damage when you get into the melee. So this list feels really, really well suited to if your opponent doesn't have a way to stop the Zodgrod unit from going crazy, which is either just like the most incredible infantry sweeping of all time that will just immediately put like 40 saves onto the aggression unit, which is difficult to do if you're engaging them and everything. Or like really like, sort of excessively strong melee. I guess like maybe the stupid like Sword Brother and Chain Sword Squad that just attacks 1 million times with full rerolls and sustained critical 5-ups and all that stuff. Plus with a wound against, I guess they were not plus with a wound because your toughness is too low. But in any case, like a unit that's just absolutely godlike at sweeping infantry, that you can like frontline with, then this list will probably get like 2 free turns of scoring on you before you're even able to do that much. And it just jails you into your deployment zone. So that's really a very interesting build. It makes total sense to me that you would play this way, right? It's like the 1-2 punch makes a lot of sense. And if you're not prepared for it, it will just kill you. And then obviously the matchups that are prepared for it, the matchups that can reliably kill the Gretchen really early, the matchups that can reach out and touch the Nobs as they're setting up to turn 2, like Bully Boys Wog in charge. You could just try to dodge those in the pairing process. So that feels amazing. They could fix the Tyranid versus Knight matchup if they made Hormagaunt Talons strength 26, AP 4, damage 30. I agree. That would fix that very quickly. I agree with that. That would, in fact, fix, I think, all of the Tyranid matchups. I don't think Tyranids would have bad matchups if Hormagaunts were strength 26, AP 4, damage 30. If one conversion from a Hormagaunt into literally any unit immediately killed it, I think that would probably be pretty good. A Land Raider? No worries. I have 2 Hormagaunts. We have a chip and a chair in the matchup. Let's go. Drukhari. Brian Lakeland rocking Drukhari. RIP this Drukhari army, because this is a Urian Rankarth and a Beastmaster already, so it's outdated as of probably next week. Running a Nightmare Shroud Archon, another Archon, Cavalry Warriors, Witches, Raider. Fucking 5 Venoms, holy shit. Let's go! A Court of the Archon to hang out with one of those Archons, a 10-man Incubi squad to go out with the other Archon, or maybe Drazar, but it's probably the Archon for full rerolls. Chronos, Mandrake, Scourges times 2, Haywire Blaster plus a Darklands. Pretty well rounded, although it's very scoring build. So we're just gonna basically fill the entire table with a million combat squads everywhere and just blow our opponent out and score here. It's actually way higher scoring like scoring centric than even a more standard singles Sky Splitter Assault. That's crazy. It's a crazy number of Venoms. But you get like the sustain, or you get the lance, you get the ignore cover when you disembark from the Venom. So, it actually does make these like melee units pretty acceptable. Like witches with lance actually become not super bad into a lot of light infantry, which is nice. Strength 8, AP 2, 2 damage Termagants. Yes, why not? Just hit as hard as an actual Hive Tyrant. Brody Middleton over here, rocking some Aeldari and an aspect host. I'll talk with Strategic Savant. I'm going to level chat. I do not know what that detachment does. Or what that enhancement does. Am I a fake Eldar fan? Strategic Savant. Gives you +1 objective control. Fascinating. I wonder if he is going to hang out. Yeah, he's a Starglaive plus a Dragon Fusion Gun. So he's almost certainly the second Howling Banshee attachment. Yeah, look at that. Double Howling Banshees. So we have one for Janezar. Again, we're focused. This whole team is just like, hey, guys, we're going to score 70 points in a game. And it's up to the other team to beat that. Like, worst case scenario, we're going to get a bunch of points. And you have to score higher while we're also playing a regular game of 40k. So, like, the cool thing about these Outtark traits is they give you, it's reroll advanced charge rolls, I believe. Plus, they have a fusion gun, so you could just shoot a gun and like auto 6 your wound roll with an Aspect Shrine token. And they give you another 5 3-damage attacks with Starglaive. I think it's 5, maybe 4. I don't remember. They have a bunch of 3-damage attacks. It's like basically having another Exarch in the unit that also makes you faster and gives you free strats and it gives you like a sick gun. The other benefit here is that this guy is giving you +1 OC. So all of your little idiots become OC2 inside the unit. It's 4 attacks. Strength 6, AV 3, 3 damage. But I think combined with the two-hand sword, the Executioner Glaive on the Exarch, I think that's 7 3-damage attacks out of the unit, which is like enough to put some damage into something. Not necessarily like one-shot a tank or something. Okay, my fucking mouse is freaking out today. Is it out of battery? Do I have a low battery mouse? Ooh. How embarrassing. Lost my data sheet I was looking at. I just lost my train of thought, chat. I'm sorry. But so the other thing is that these guys can basically go in. They can bounce off of a unit, 6-inch piling consolidate, put 12 OC onto an objective to flip it. So we call these, or I call them typically, I call them disruption pieces, where they disrupt your scoring, right? Typically, most of the time, like 90% of the time, I would say, probably 90% of all games, all battle rounds in Warhammer 40k, right? We looked at every single game of 40k played. In 90% of all command phases on round 2 onwards, you are sitting on your home objective and you're sitting on your expansion objective. The goal of these units is to go in, get work done, and stop you scoring that expansion objective to depress your score. And then if they can do that in such a situation where they're also scoring their expansion, then they're going to go up in points and they have a better chance of winning. Pretty classic stuff. So a lot of times you see this from like this is a classic place where you have Termagant units or like jump pack assault intercessors that'll just go and kill the unit that's standing on the objective and take it from them. In Raven Guard, those jump pack assault intercessors are OC2, so they're even better at doing it because all they have to do is kill you down to just a couple models and then they'll take the objective just on raw OC. But a lot of times you see most armies should, if you have access to it, include some form of relatively fast melee viable unit who can go in and charge an enemy on an objective and prevent that objective from scoring for the enemy, right? And the Outtark with this little enhancement is pretty good for that, which I actually really like. We have Fuegan, we have Janezar, we have Hlykas, Corsair Void Reapers, Storm Guardians, Wave Serpent, Dark Reapers, Howling Banshees again, Double Rangers for utility, 25 Swooping Hawks. The plus, we talked about them yesterday, but the plus 20 points in the big unit, it's 2 points per model. plus 2 points per model for these units, and apparently was not even enough to limit the viability of the 10-man units. This was kind of like very recent technology as of just a couple weeks ago, basically, that people came up with, and it was immediately nerfed like 1 week later by increasing the size of the cost of these units. But it's 40 lethal hit shots plus what is effectively a 10 dice grenade. So it's 5 mortal wounds plus 40 lethal hit attacks, rerolling 1s to hit, and then they also have aspect rank tokens on top of that as well. So they can confirm more lethal hits on their 2 damage gun as well. So the damage output from these guys into basically any target that's not a 2+ save is phenomenally insane. It's crazy, crazy good. They will just go ahead and basically hand you like 12 saves on basically anything and 5 mortal wounds. So most of the time against any like 3+ save target, they're basically in for 9 damage. More so if you convert with the Exarch attacks. So they could potentially be putting in like 11 or 12 damage pretty reliably. It's insane. It's super wild. If you're 2+ save, they don't have that much to do because they're AP 0, or if you have like a bunch of defensive effects, they're not gonna like kill anything in the game. But as long as your save characteristic isn't crazy, they're just gonna straight up, you're gonna be dead. It's plus they're fast enough that they can basically do that from anywhere on the table, because they can move up to 17, I think, with the or 16 inches, I guess, with the +2 movement token. I can't remember if they're assault. I don't think they are, but I could be super wrong, and then they just go faster, and I'm forgetting. They are assault. Just kidding. The difference is that if you take the Hawk's Talon, it's not assault. So the 2 damage gun on the Exarch can't advance and shoot, but the rest of the unit can. And awkwardly, their grenade pack ability works even if you advance, which a lot of the other like mortal wound effects do not only work on normal movement. So if you advance or you fall back, they don't work. For some reason, for whatever reason, the Swooping Hawks are able to drop their grenades regardless of what they do. So these guys could move up to 22 inches and hit you for grenades and then shoot 36 times. So it's like impossible to hide from because they're just so fast. The goal is to eat the attack and then hope you can kill them, but obviously it's Eldar, so if you can't kill 10 models in one shot with a 5+ invulnerable save, which you probably can't, then they'll just fade away and hide, and then they get to continuously do mortal wounds for the rest of the game. It's kind of wild. It took a really long time for these to become popular, which is interesting, because as soon as you see it on the table, you're like, hold up. What the fuck is happening? Well, who wrote this? This is crazy. We have a Power Blade Array Warp Spider unit for Lycus, and then another Warp Spider unit for utility. Yeah, that's a very strong list. He's very aggressive. We do have the big spooky Fire Dragon unit that we can Skyborn Sanctuary in and out of the Wave Serpent, so we can just constantly be doing anti-tank damage with that. We get a ton of sustained damage out of the Swooping Hawks over the course of the game. We can get things like Dark Reapers off the side of the table that can just basically pound additional damage in. And usually this army has so many individual threats you have to deal with, because if you give it the opportunity, it's going to throw 20 Swooping Hawks at you, plus 5 Dark Reapers, plus 10 Fire Dragons. The Fire Dragons are going to re-embark a transport after shooting, plus potentially a Howling Banshee unit as well at the same time. Most armies can't kill all that, or at least engage with all that in one go, which means that these little units are on the sides, like the Dark Reapers and the Howling Banshees, usually just get to do what they're doing for free, essentially. Or you're not killing the Swooping Hawk units, and they're just going to continuously do like 12 damage to you every turn. It's crazy. It's crazy. Not to say it's totally unbeatable, because you can have just, absolutely divine T3 infantry sweeping. You just kill everything in one go. But obviously, it's a team event. You can just dodge those, and it's fine. And if that's attached to a vehicle or something, then you get one activation out of it, and then the Fire Dragons instantly destroy it. Plagan one-shots any tank in the game, basically. It's pretty good stuff, as they say. What's my opinion on standalone Harlequin lists? Oh boy. So personally, I have very little experience with them in post codex. And right now, I think that they are a little. I think that they're underpowered. I'm sure that there's like sort of small table 40k, you can make it almost anything work if you're good at it. So I'm not going to say that you can't make any, you can't have any success with it, but I think like Harlequin only is going to be very difficult. Harlequin plus Aeldari or Harlequin plus Drukhari is not too bad. I don't know what they're going to look like post-update, but Reaper's Wager lists have traditionally been pretty good, even running, like, not a mass amount of Harlequins, but, like, I don't know, 25, 30% Harlequins. You can take Void Weavers, you can take Star Weavers, you can take, like, the Phanta, or the who's that guy? the Psyker guy. I'm bad at this chat. What? It's been so long since Harlequins have been good. I literally forgot what all they were called. The Shadow Seer. Jesus Christ. The Shadow Seer unit with the Deep Strike, the Webway Warrior enhancement. It's like that guy's really good. So there's definitely stuff you could do. It's not like it's super worth, like the whole sub faction is like worthless, but their baseline detachment is like not super duper powerful. So I don't know. Anyway, how good can Swimming Hawks really be if they died at strength 26 AP4 damage 30 Hormagaunts? It's so fucking true, dude. It's so true. So the 30 damage Hormagaunts they might literally be unbeatable. It might not be possible to lose if your Hormagaunts should do 30 damage per swing. You know? And you can take 120 of them. It might actually just be unbeatable. Crazy. It's crazy to think about how strong Tyranids can be, you know? If that's all you do. Is make their 6-point infantry do, like, literally 10,000 times as much damage as they do. That I think it might be. Have I played against Windrider Host? I have. Windrider Host is sick. I have some games live streamed even on this channel with Windrider Host with Ralben playing it. That's Ruben Zhao playing it in the Invitational. Actually, you can check those out because the game's really good. Nids would still get dice somehow. It is still possible to play that matchup and just die immediately to like everything that attacks. Right? You play a bunch of like Overwatch Flamers and fight first. They could just like kill you before you get there, but.
Ryan G donated $2 through Super Chat. R.I.P. Wraith Seer. Trevi's favorite data sheet of 10th.
R.I.P. the piece of shit race here. That fucking guy. We did play the all Wraith list for a while, which was really cool. And the Raciers were just enormous fucking do-nothings. They were just a strictly worse Wraith Lord. A strictly worse Wraith Lord. Absolutely unplayable. The Wraith Lord was great, though. Wraith Lords, every time I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. I love this dude. We should play more of these. But the Racier was just the same thing, but had altogether worse rules on its datasheet. Speaking of Tyranids, chat, should we talk about Tyranids? Let's preemptively nerf gaunts. How much would a 30 damage gaunt cost? Like 500 points? Gaunts to 500 points. 5,000 points for 10. and what is that for a unit of 20? 10,000 points? 10,000 points for a unit of 20 guns. Advance and charge 30 damage piece with 60 attacks. Too strong. Make it go away. Yeah, let's talk about some freaking Tyranids. Eric Lathurus, the absolute Chad, traveling all the way to America to ruin everyone's day once again. Last year, or I guess earlier this year, it was traditionally for LBO, but today he's coming to absolutely gank us with his Tyranids. Rocking Invasion Fleet. And if you noticed the thumbnail of this video, I have hearkened to this list because it is a Horde list. Speaking of Hormagants and Termagants, look at all this shit. So again, we are going. The Australian team did not come here to play Warhammer 40k. They came here to accrue victory points. They wanted the number to go up on their score. Where they're not gonna. I'm not gonna engage you where we fight and we have like, you know, contestation over objectives. I'm just here to make the primary number increase until the end of the game, in which case I write down a 2-0 next to my differential score, and I write a 0 down next to you. That's the goal. So, we're playing Invasion Fleet because we have access to the stratagem, whose name I forget, Teeming Masses, I think, which allows you to regenerate another, I'm going to say it's 2d3 models back, but I could be wrong. Let's make sure I know what I'm talking about today. It is, excuse me, it's just called Endless Swarm. It's even better than 2d3. It's D3 plus 3 models to 2 Gant units, Endless Multitude units, which is all your Gants, 2 Gant units in Synapse range. So potentially up to 12 models returned for 1 command point that you get for free because we have a Hive Tyrant. Plus, we also have a Termagant. So we can chain that together with Termagant regeneration. So the Termagant can do another D3 plus 3 to a Termagant unit. So it can't work on Hormagants, but it can work on Termagants. Which means we could potentially be getting 18 models back per turn. Eat your heart out, Endless Swarm. Endless Swarm gets a reinforcement strat. Once per game, we can bring 20 Termagants back. Who cares? That's trash and sucks. In this case, we're going to bring back, over the course of 5 battle rounds, potentially up to 90 Gaunts. If we roll all 6s and we constantly get all the activations, which you almost certainly won't do. But this is almost certainly worth basically another 40. Almost 100% of the time. So the goal here, and I've actually talked about this, if you watch my How to Play Tyranids video, because they go so hard into Termagants in the Tyranid combat patrols, and this is a very consistent game plan. Essentially what we want to do is set up in a position, and you get an additional bonus to do this in this particular in this particular format, because you can choose table layout. So if you can create a situation where you know you're going to get a table layout that has a line of sight blocking terrain feature that's somewhere near the center of the battlefield on the center objective, we just put a Termagant 3 inches away from that center objective, and then place a bunch of models on that objective. The goal is between Rapid Regeneration, so for a 5+ Feel No Pain, Venom Thropes for a Stealth and Permanent Cover, and in some cases we take Zoe and Thropes, but we're not going to do that today in order to give them a 6+ Invulnerable save. The goal is not to lose all 20 Termagants in one attack. And you also have reactive moves, because they have a reactive move against enemies with a 9, so you can always set this up. If you can create a situation where you can ensure that you are on a table that has that particular layout, all you need to do is put that one Termagant within 3 inches of the middle. As soon as your opponent shoots the Termagant squad, you immediately assign saves to every single Termagant in line of sight. So that everyone that your opponent can multi-activate into is dead. That's the goal. All you need is one Termagant to survive that's within 3 inches of that objective, and then immediately you dump 12 Termagants back into that unit in your command phase, you retake the objective, and you score 2-3 on primary. 3-2 on primary. So if you're playing Take and Hold, you're playing Linchpin, something like that, your score is going to constantly increase faster than your opponents, and if they cannot one-shot this Termagant squad, there's literally nothing they can do about it. On top of that, we have similar interactions on your opponent's objectives. The Hormagants are super fast. If they ever don't die, you just do the same combo on them, because we can potentially choose up to 3 separate units to regenerate. So if, for example, you send a 20 Hormagants out to your opponent's objective, your opponent doesn't kill the entire unit, then suddenly you can just respawn them and you retake their objective on their turn. Or on your turn to then get a second activation out of this Hormagant unit. So we're basically, we're burning Endless Swarm every single turn of the game to try to keep these units topped up and to try to maintain control of the objectives. Now, there is an interaction I think it's important to discuss with the Termagant squads. Because we have 2 separate instances of things that can respawn them, unfortunately, because both of them trigger in command phase, you cannot chain them together. So what you can never do, a lot of new players get this confused all the time, because it used to be back in the day that you could actually string forward basically an infinite distance, where you would, if you had enough regeneration, this was like, Tyranid is really toxic in 9th edition, this is one of the reasons. If you had enough regeneration, you could just constantly be chaining your coherency forward and forward and forward until you basically like moved the unit up 8 inches or 12 inches, and you would take a new objective. So your opponent had to be really careful about when they shot you and how many guys they killed. Now, in 10th edition, you can't do that. If you reanimate, you can only ever reanimate into coherency of stuff that was already on the battlefield. So you can't, that one Termagant that's sitting behind a ruin in the middle of the table, you are only ever going to get 3 inches, 2 inches for coherency plus the base size of your models ahead of where that model is, which is why it's really important that you have a defensive area to stand in that is nearby an objective. However, if you're ever in a matchup where your opponent doesn't have the infantry sweeping to one-shot that whole Termagant unit, you will just you'll just beat them on primary. There's basically very little they can do. I've actually streamed games because Sam Pope used to play this combo. Not to this level. This is 80 Termagants. I think he played 60 at the highest. But I've streamed games where he basically just constructed a situation where his opponent didn't have the attacks to one-shot a Termagant unit through Feel No Pain, through stealth, through cover, all this stuff, and so the game was immediately over. Like there's basically no way they could ever catch him on primary, and that's exactly the situation that this list is trying to create. So we have the Termagant to respawn people. It also gives them lethal hits on their spine fists, which are pistols as well, so they can fire in melee, and they actually sometimes like kill light infantry that they just engage with, which is funny. We have a Neuro Tyrant, so we can Neuroloid stuff out into the front and then endless swarm the units that we Neuroloided because now they're in Synapse range. We have Death Leaper for midboard control, and then we have the Winged Hive Tyrant to get those strats for free. Perfectly adapted on the Hive Tyrant, so he gets rerolls floating, which is very nice for him because he can burn it on saves, and then if you ever need it on a hit roll, it's a big deal because he's almost full hit and wound rerolls with the perfectly adaptive in there as well. He's hitting on 2s and then twin linked for the wound roll. Theoretically, if you don't get more than 1 miss, you could just perfectly adapt it the 2 you roll on the hit roll to hopefully convert it, and then you're 100% hit and wound rerolls. It's not quite the same because if you just roll a bunch of 1s, it sucks, or if you have a hit modifier applied to you. But the other thing is that the Winged Hive Tyrant versus the Foot Hive Tyrant, he doesn't have the Assault aura, and he doesn't have the lethal hits. You don't necessarily need the lethal hits because most of your shooting is actually on Termagants who already get it from the Termagant, but he's significantly cheaper. He's like 40 points cheaper, I think, than the Foot Hive Tyrant. Part of that is because he's actually way bigger, which is like significantly worse. He's really tall and wide, but he doesn't have a gun, so he doesn't get any benefit of being wide. It's just purely downside. So he's way easier to kill, like dramatically easier to kill than the Foot Hive Tyrant. He also does less damage because he only has 1 set of arms. His other set of arms is being taken up by the wings, so he only has 1 weapon. And he has a sort of like -1 to hit melee ability, which is, I guess, theoretically, or -1 attack, I think. It's theoretically useful to prevent people from killing the Termagants, but it's one of those like 2+ psychic abilities that damages him when he rolls a 1. And in my experience, he always rolls a 1, and then you just like want to cry. We have 2 Maleceptors to basically bully high impact stuff off the middle of the table. So if they can kill your Termagants, you can just throw 4+ invulnerable saves with -1 to hit and wound effects up in there and just hope for the best. There's Venom Thropes to chain the Termagants back to, double Neurolictor for all the buffs and stuff. And the Biovore and a Lictor for scoring and things. Look at all that Tyranid talk. Let's go. The Winged Hive Tyrant is Baby Magnus. I mean, like, Baby Magnus in the context of, like, when you go back in time to, like, assassinate Baby Hitler, maybe. You know? Like, Magnus is to... The Winged Hive Tyrant is to Magnus what Baby Hitler is to regular Hitler. You know what I mean? You see, he's not quite the same level. He's a little tiny infant, and he hits as hard as a baby. Indeed. Whoa! I'm gonna take a sore throat. It's all tired out. Whoa. 2 free rerolls to saves. Yeah, you can do that on the Foot Hive Tyrant though, and his save characteristics are better. But the difference is that, like, once he commits, it's so much easier to deal with him, and he's a little bit more restricted on where he can hide while he's staging up the table because he's so much larger than the other Hive Tyrants. Whereas the other Hive Tyrants literally fit into buildings. And the Winged Hive Tyrant is like he's like the size of Be'lakor, but he doesn't have like the lone operative aura. He doesn't have stealth. He's half as many wounds. He's significantly worse defensive profile. It's I don't know. It's a weird profile to have. If the game ever goes to base to base line of sight measurement, the Winged Hive Tyrant is immediately the best model in the game. Because he goes from being the size of a house to being the size of like I don't know, something that's really small. a really small thing, and getting no downside for it, which would be great. I would love that quite a bit. Let's talk about World Eaters. Jacob Warren over here running a Berzerker warband. How many Berzerkers do we have? Oh, buddy. Look at that. That's gorgeous. That's glorious. We have seen a huge push towards 20-man Berzerker units more recently. This one has Lord Invocatus in it, which is really interesting too. So it's Karn Betrayer, just going in 20 Berzerkers and just running up the table, I guess. Sometimes we see him in a 10 with a Rhino, but like, fuck it. We ball, I suppose. I guess like you're basically going to try to dodge the matchups that can just clear 60 Berzerkers. There are some situations where you rock into like Chaos Knights with like all the fucking 2 damage Gatling cannon shooting, and this army just falls apart because they have medium infantry sweeping coming out their ears. But because it's a team format, you can dodge those, and you just hit enemies that can't clear all this stuff, and then you're just like off to the races. So you don't even need to protect yourself in transports at that point. You're just like, I don't know, whatever. I'm just gonna fucking run up the table. You're just trying to dodge like mass multi-damage blast and like really strong fights first, I guess, like 2 damage fights first. And if you can dodge all those, then you're probably fine. So Karn run up the table, super high damage on his unit. We have Lord Invocatus, who gives his unit Deep Strike, which is actually a huge deal. So they start in reserve, and they're just the most horrifying rapid ingress of all time. You set up in a situation where your opponent either can shoot you, but they only shoot you with a couple things. As long as you're you don't set up in a position where they can shoot you with like every blast gun known to man, right? As you can set up in like, here's one infantry, like anti-infantry sort of unit, the thing that's going to shoot a couple 2 damage attacks. Because you want to lose a casualty to incoming shooting. You just rapid ingress into that spot and you say, if you shoot me, I'm going to freaking apoplectic frenzy directly into you. What's the strat to go full speed with the blood surge? Apoplectic frenzy is advanced in charge. The strat for
Night Lord Jagan donated $10 through Super Chat. Hey man, I watched your videos for Tabletop Sim for playing some WH, so thanks for that. Question: I've been wanting to start with Chaos Knights as my first army. What would you recommend I buy first?
Oh, Night Lord Jagan, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that, buddy. Happy to hear that the tutorial videos are helping you out. Chaos Knights is an interesting one. I think that the immediate Windmill Slam is a Knight Despoiler, largely for the fact that the data shade is like super wide open. I would look into magnetizing. We've got some friends over at the Magnet Baron who do specialized kits for magnetizing knights, because then you basically you'll buy a knight and you magnetize the weapon arms, because currently essentially the Despoiler chassis can equip effectively any weapons it wants. If you magnetize the weapon arms, you can constantly be swapping between them, depending on what you want to play at the time, right? Depending on what you feel like is good, or if anything changes in the future. So, Knight Despoiler is phenomenal. I think other than that, War Dogs are great to start off with, because you can play them in smaller games. You don't necessarily need to just like rock off the bat with 2,000 points and play a bunch of super heavies. So the War Dog kit is phenomenal. Carnivores are kind of the be all end all, and the other one is I want to say Stalkers. I think it's the melee plus the Melta Spear guy. Those guys are pretty good too. But honestly, like all the War Dog chassis are not too bad. The Carnivore I think is just definitely the best one, because he's like aggressive and he's fast. But the other ones are pretty good. So I would say Carnivores or War Dogs. Build them into Carnivores. Start with a couple of those. Take one Despoiler and you go from there. And that's like 1,000 points with just a couple of purchases. And then you play a couple incursion games to see how you feel, and then you expand out from there. But the cool thing about Chaos Knights right now is that like they have a lot of if you feel like you want to expand out, Chaos Knights can both ally demons, which is cool, so you can actually like splash into some other factions, or be allied into any of the other Chaos factions. So if you ever want to like expand into demons or expand into Chaos Space Marines or some of the other Chaos Space Marine legions, you already have a baseline of units that you can include, or at least 3 Carnivores or a Despoiler or something that you can put into another faction, which is sweet. So I think it's definitely not the worst place to start. It will give you a little bit of a kind of one-dimensional look at what the game looks like, because you are playing all vehicles. You're not playing any infantry. You're not playing any of that stuff. But it is flexible once you expand. Go on Forge World and buy 2 Knight Porphyrians. Indeed. You know what? Why not? Whoa. Yeah, there is a new edition probably coming out next year. But it's like, it's impossible to prognosticate. Like, it would just be... Yeah, we can only play the game that we have in front of us right now. We don't know anything about the new edition. So, I wouldn't worry about that too much. There is, like, rumors and stuff of like, demons getting legended, but I don't know. They also said that was happening in this edition, and also rumors are weird, so I don't know if I would put that much stock into it. But worst case scenario, you could just sell them to your favorite Age of Sigmar player. I don't know. They should fix these by giving them Oath of Moment. But then have it. But it's pure. It's like straight up a copy paste of Oath of Moment from the balance data slate right now, where it says you get +1 to wound if you're playing a Codex Space Marine detachment, and they never clarify whether or not any of the Tyranid detachments are Codex Space Marine. That's the kicker. All right, we're talking about this list. Oh yeah, so the deal here, right, is that what we can do is threaten really strong blood surges off of Lord Invocatus. I actually think Lord Invocatus is he's much more expensive than the Juggernaut Lord, so he's hard to justify. But when you are spamming Khorne Berzerkers, he's so good because he can because he gives you the opportunity to come out of strategic reserve without having to worry about going off the table edge, which is really bad for large melee units. Because the goal is not to... As soon as you tell your opponent, hey, I'm going to strat reserve 20 Khorne Berzerkers, your opponent's like, all right, cool. I'm just going to put, like, the most dangerous shooting I possibly can so I can see the size of the table. And then suddenly you don't have any safe places to drop. And you can get a Blood Surge move off their shooting. However, if you lose half your unit off, to get the Blood Surge move, it's probably not worth it. So it's always spooky with the big units. Small melee units, sometimes you can hide them. You can overload your opponent. They have a tough time sort of getting those lines of sight. These big, huge melee units that are 21 models, it's very difficult to do, like, profitably. However, Lord Invocatus giving you Deep Strike lets you start those units in reserve. That means you have less pressure on the line of sight blockers in the center of the table. You're taking up less real estate in relevant areas of the battlefield, and you can also threaten this really obnoxious brick later on in the game. The stratagem I was looking for, chat, is Berzerker's Wrath. So you can drop him in to more aggressive positions than you would typically put your rapid ingress deep strikers, because instead of trying to dodge all of your opponent's shooting, all you have to do is dodge your opponent's relevant shooting, like shooting that could reasonably threaten your entire unit. Because as soon as they shoot you, you can just move 8 inches, and suddenly your unit is essentially like has the potential to rapid ingress and then move like 20 inches in charge, because they could move 8, advance and charge, then charge, right? So they could, if your opponent triggers the Berzerker's Wrath, which is obviously they won't do, which means you just get to drop in more aggressive positions than normal, you could potentially charge that unit like 27 plus inches across the table immediately on the next turn. So you're basically telling your opponent, hey, I'm going to put these guys in a very aggressive spot, so I'm going to get a better spot than I would normally do from a normal deep striker. And if you do anything about it, you immediately lose. Because I'm immediately just going to mess you up. The other thing too.
Balls donated €10 through Super Chat.
Ayo!
Crazy story from Traunstein Cup. A Knights player paid €300, $350 to his Aeldari opponent to let him win. Needless to say, he got disqualified. Lol.
Wait, what? Captain Butterball's thinking of the Super Chat. Is that fucking real? That's so funny, because Knights is strictly unplayable in Eldar. That would be if there was one matchup in the game where I would say, like, you gotta find you have to like kneecap your opponent in the parking lot in order to win the matchup. It's probably like, it's like Warhost Eldar and Knights. That matchup is so fucking brutal. You just every turn you're just losing 3 units to fire dragons, and you have no way to deal with it. You have nothing. You can't. Most of your data sheets can't one-shot a wave serpent, so the wave serpent just re-embarks 10 fire dragons and moves behind a building, takes like 4 damage and leaves. If he refuses to elaborate, leaves, and then you just have to run up, contest their objectives, and lose 3 more units to fire dragons. It's so disgusting. Did that actually happen? I need more information about that. That's amazing. Let me pull up the this is the one time I didn't fucking save my I didn't save my stupid list of events for best arms in 40k, so I have to go back and find it manually. That's insane if that's real. I've never heard of like fucking bribes in a 40k event before. That's so crazy. Did anybody get like dropped, like zeroed and dropped like really, really early? Was it? Oh. I just sneezed, sorry. Is it here? Unwinnable? Nothing's unwinnable that does cash your wallet. What he should have done, instead of bribing his opponent to concede the game, he should have bribed him to give him 30 damage, like Nurglings or something. It was this guy? Did he play the event? Bro. This game? Was this the game chat? Should have bribed him just not to fire and fade. Yeah. Holy shit. Is that, wow, is that real? Captain Butterballs, were you at the event? Were you there? Somebody put me in touch with a judge. Alexander Wagner, I'm coming for you. If so, that's amazing. First of all, shout out to the judges for just catching it and immediately putting a stop to it. Just fucking immediately axe that guy. 100%. As sucky as it is to hit a practically unwinnable matchup, bribing your opponent, you just have to accept that when you're playing an all vehicle skew list, that's just a thing that can happen. Bro, it's not like I fucking like paired against Zach in Nova with a 6 Greater Demon list and hit Aspect Host Drukhari, or excuse me, Aeldari with all Swooping Hawks. It was like, oh man, I should find a way to win this game through bribery. No, you just accept that it's basically unwinnable. You just go. You just accept that somebody has found the answer to your degenerate skew. Was this it was Aspect Host. Oh, it's the same list. Oh, it was very similar to what we just talked about. Yeah. Fire Dragons, I think benches and stuff. This one isn't quite as crazy as like the mass Fire Dragon like Warhost list, right? Warhost is way worse. This is probably still so difficult to win that it probably won't happen. But at least it's not quite as bad. Weird that the Aeldari player is allowed to continue. I mean, I guess so. He did accept a bribe. What's worse? Conceptually, what's worse? Is it offering a bribe or accepting the bribe? Almost certainly offering it, right? Did he? Oh, he also awkwardly went on to lose all his games. So, man didn't exactly, wasn't exactly prepared to win the whole tournament, I guess. They were, like, technically undefeated at that point, I suppose. So it would have put Chaos Knights to... it would have put Chaos Knights to 201, right? I should preface this as well. I'm gonna look into this. Yeah, it would have put them to 201. Which I guess is like it's good for probably top placing, but you're almost certainly not gonna win the event. So that's also like wild to do in a situation where you're probably not gonna take it, right? Because the top player was 5-0, right? Yeah, I talked about this list in Best Armies. So you're like paying 350 euro for like 4th place. Okay. I mean, if it means that much to you, man. I will say I'm gonna verify this. I'm gonna try to verify what happened here. Obviously, no shade to these people. Just like right off of unsubstantiated rumors. Clearly, something happened because one of the players was dropped. But before we go all in on them, I will do my best to verify that. If that actually did happen, and I'll do some due diligence this week. If that actually did happen, 100% there's a video about that coming out later. That's fucking wild. That's so wild. Accepting the bribe, it's gray area, but it's almost just as bad. If that's true, I don't blame the Aeldari player for that money. Yeah, especially because you're like, well, you know, I drew round 1. Like, put yourself in the Aeldari player's shoes. You're like, I'm not, like, super prepared, and I drew round 1. So, like, it's unlike, I can't win the event, right? So I'm not playing for 5-0, because I already drew round 1. So, like, I could get 350 to first of all, I'll submarine for the future, so I could go 3-1-1 pretty easily, probably. And then on top of that, like there's almost no downside. The downside is that if the judges catch you. But you're like, I go 2-0-1 right now, get paired into like second table, but have no chance to win. I'm playing in semifinals for like top 4, basically. Or I submarine right now and make $350. Seems like a no-brainer. If I had dropped a game and my opponent offered me $350, that would certainly be tempting. I don't think I would take it for obvious reasons, but but I would certainly be tempted by it. Absolutely. That's crazy. It's an obscenely low bribe, brother. It is. It is probably 350 times what the top player made, which is likely a combat patrol. I don't know what the prize support for this event looks like, but almost certainly there is little to no prize support. Competitive 40k has no money behind it. All of these players we're talking about are playing essentially only for bragging rights. This is a great website, by the way. I really like this website. And they have a hangout. They have set aside a hangout time. It doesn't say what the prize pool would be. I can almost guarantee you the prize pool is worth like 100 US. The prize is largely like ITC rankings points and stuff. Jean-Marc, I take 50. I hope we get paired. I know what I'm doing. No, that's amazing. Captain Butterballs, thank you for the super chat and thank you for the tip there. Because if that's true, I will verify. I do not want any shade on these players if I cannot find substantiated evidence of this happening. However, if that is true, that's absolutely incredible. I've never heard of anything like that happening in a 40k event before. I'm sure it has, but I've never heard of that before. If that actually did happen, I'm so fucking that's so fucking amazing. What? You're like X01, you fucking offer a bribe. That's wild. Oh my god. Incredible. Just give him $5 and a coffee. Listen, today's day and age, that's like $11 right there. That's real. That's real money. Talking about life-changing generational wealth right here. $5 and a coffee. Insane. All right. We've been distracted off of we've been tactical tangented off of our World Eaters list for quite a while now, but we'll finish up on the World Eaters list. Double Jackal, double 8-bound. It's exalted, regular 8-bound, and a Chaos Money. Good stuff. More pressure, more scoring, victory point goes up. That's all we want to see. Coffee's not chump change these days. I know. Listen, from what I've heard, the internet has told me if all you do is not buy coffee, you can afford a whole house. So my boomer boss told me that. So clearly that coffee's worth a lot. A coffee's worth at least like $20,000 and a mortgage payment. And maybe some avocado. Chat, I love you people. You're amazing. Jordan McGregor over here. Hallowed Martyrs. Rocket a bunch of candidates. Hallowed Martyrs is going to score fucking so many points. So it's so interesting because I talked about this in my Best Armies video, but I've basically been like the last, I would say 3-4 months, every single Adeptus Sororitas list is just, you play Hallowed Martyrs, you play some combination of this stuff, right? It's a Palatine, you do the full rerolls, you do Mortal Wounds, through Suffering Strength. It's whether it's on a jump Canoness, and you can combo with the rights of, with the thing where she gets extra attacks, and all that stuff. It's basically, it's a lot of the times the same. Singles events this weekend, we had a ton of different Adeptus Sororitas builds, which is wild. But it's nice we're going back to the old faithful in teams here. So nice thing about this attachment is that we get all these utility characters. So we get Canoness with Saintly Example, so she pinatas out Miracle Dice when she dies. We have another Canoness. Both of them have a once per game 2+ invulnerable save. Both of them can be respawned. So your opponent is highly disincentivized from like actively targeting and trying to kill your Saintly Example Canoness early. So a lot of times what you see out of this character is that she will disembark a transport early and just push mid for a secondary, right? She gets Cleanse, she gets Area Denial, she gets Established Locus, Secure No Man's Land, any of that stuff, early game, you just push the Canoness forward.
Ryan G donated $5 through Super Chat. Fun fact. All in, cup, coffee, it only costs Dunkin' 25 cents to make a medium hot coffee.
Amazing. What a time. What about labor, though? Labor and overhead. That's material cost, right? But, like, just the time for a person to put that together, it's probably only a couple minutes, but that by itself is worth more than 25 cents, right? I'm sure you get upwards of $1. That's still a great margin, in fairness. Like if you have you're rocking on a fucking 80% margin, that's huge, but there's a lot of extra stuff in there. Yeah, probably it's $1. And a hot medium costs you $4. So 75% margin, I guess. I mean, it's great. That's good. That's good money. Isn't that what tips are for? Tips, you only tip typically. Well, there's like a cultural shift that fucking credit card companies are trying to make right now, and everyone should fight against it vehemently. But it is traditional to only tip service staff, basically. So people who will personalize some sort of service for you. So if you tip someone who is essentially traveling to you for some sort of thing. So if they're a delivery person or they are a wait staff, who is doing some sort of personalized service for you specifically, that's when you tip. People who are in like fast food industries who for whom the service is not personal, tipping is encouraged by obviously the people involved, but it is rare, I would say, or it is rarer. However, it's becoming more common, which I think is not a trend I love. I would prefer just for someone to tell me how much they want me to pay them, and then I pay them that amount of money. But I know that it's like a weird situation. It's weird compared to other countries that don't necessarily do that quite as much. Yeah, don't tip someone at Dunkin's. Yeah, that's it's not unheard of, but it is rare to tip a fast food staff. I used to tip gas station attendants, and now that the weirdest thing, it's been a culture shock for me, but like coming from Massachusetts, I went to the shop I used for my my regular maintenance on my car was a full service shop. So if I got gas there, I would oftentimes tip the attendant. A lot of times because I went in the winter, and it would there's a whole backstory. We don't need to go into it, but sometimes I would tip the attendants. That's actually that's like unheard of, and they were always surprised. But they were out there in like 20-degree weather and like fucking dying to fill my car up. However, now that I've moved down to Pennsylvania, or to Pennsylvania next to New Jersey has mandated full service gasoline, which blows my fucking mind, and I actively hate it. I do not like full service gas stations because I have to. Usually, when I go to a gas station, it's like a whole process, and I'm there on a road trip because I'm road tripping for an event, and so I'm there to like potentially get a coffee, go to the bathroom, stretch my legs, get gas. Right? It's like I'm gonna be there for 15 or 20 minutes, and so having to either leave my car with this goober or wait for him to do his thing and then leave is a huge pain in my ass, and I fucking hate it. And so I stopped doing that. is the answer. Plus, they're doing something I was about to do. I would have done it if they weren't there for free. It's weird. I really don't like it. Really do not like it. But that's okay. We're back to the playing. We're talking about Adeptus Sororitas. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. Everybody fucking left as soon as I talked that story. Sorry, chat. We'll go back to talking about 40k. Simply don't stop in New Jersey. Sometimes you gotta. I mean, that's good advice, I think, generally, on the best of days. So we've got Morbid Ball, Judith Aerovita, a Palatine, Sororitas Rhino, and an Immolator. Triple Castigator, Celestian Sacrosaunts times 2, so 20 models of Sacrosaunts. A lot of times we get the Palatine in one of them, and Junith in the other one, because Junith can provide a -1 to hit effect as her leadership ability, so they get -1 to be hit and wounded, which is like kind of the god combo. Dominion Squad for early game to get Combat Squad into one of the Immolators, Paragon Warsuits, Retributors, Zephyrum. I think I played against this exact list at Nova. Oh no, it didn't. It wasn't Castigators. It wasn't Castigators in that list. It was more vehicles, but pretty standard stuff. But the nice thing about this, as I talked about before, is that your opponent's really disincentivized from engaging with the Canonesses. Because if you come out, you go all in to try to kill a Canoness, right? The Canoness comes out to do an objective, and you're like, all right, I'm going to line up a couple guns, and I'm going to shoot her. She's going to be like 2+ invuln save, and then you're not going to kill her. And then she just does it again. If you line up two mortal wounds or two separate instances of attacking, you full committed into a 60-point model that then respawns. So you've given the whole game away. So you basically can't engage with these two until you have random attacks enough to kill them, which means they just score a ton of points really passively. And usually your opponent will get a huge bonuses once you kill them, because they get Miracle Dice, they get Saintly Example Dice, and they get bonuses from the Retributor Squad when you kill something. So suddenly the Retributors can come back and get +1 to hit and wound and rerolls to kill whatever killed the Canoness. So there's basically no reason that you're ever going to go for these two, which means they just get to accrue passive income against you effectively. It's really strong. And again, the goal is to make the number go up. All of these lists are just here to score 1,000,000 points, and so having double utility Canonesses is certainly in that vein. Have I ever been to a Buc-ee's? I have. I was thoroughly unimpressed. For the phenomenal amount that Bucky spends on billboards, I don't understand why anyone ever goes there. Sometimes it's the only gas station off the exit, but holy shit, I will avoid them actively if I can. I do not like it. All of those billboard expenses immediately go back into their their costs, because everything costs fucking 25% more than it should. It's so stupid. What a dumb business. If I were to start Warhammer from scratch with which army would I pick? Almost. Great question. In 10th edition. Probably Aeldari. But I'm not 100% sure. Man, I honestly, in 10th edition, probably Space Marines. Honestly, is like the correct answer. If you're not sure, the answer should be Space Marines because they can play anything. But probably Aeldari. Right now, yeah, I don't know. That would probably be the one. Josh McGowan over here ranking Awakened Dynasty. More scoring. Awakened Dynasty loves scoring. We have a Catacomb Command Barge with a Nagic Dermal Bond. So 4+ invulnerable save into a 4+ Feel No Pain. Dude's fucking hard to kill. Lets you play a little bit more aggressively with him, so you can push his +1 OC aura farther forward too. Luminor Seraz, so another 4+ Feel No Pain character. Can't regen this guy though, so it's a little bit sad. At least I don't believe you can. I think that it's restricted to infantry. Is that right? I'm gonna verify. I always forget what you can respawn. I believe it's literally only infantry stuff. Yeah, no, not available for the Catacomb Command Barge. Chaos Space Marine is the best codex of 10th edition. That might be the case, yeah. Let me tell you, it's not the best codex. Fucking Tyranids. Ooh. Chaos Space Marines have looked cool. I've liked Chaos Space Marines in the past. I don't know if I have any particular affinity with any of their game, like their play styles right now, but I don't hate it. I guess I like the Pact-Bound Zealot, or the Pact-Bound Zealot like combo. The combo list where it's like all fucking critical 5-ups Hellbrute stuff. You first of all get the Hellbrute for free, so that's really cool. That's a detachment bonus. Little known fact. I learned that from Lone Star Open. But also you get 5-up critical full reroll like lethal sustain, which is one of my favorite things to do. When at the start of the edition, I played the shit out of Space Marines just because I liked rolling like 20 dice and then 5-up critical lethal sustain. It was like my favorite thing in the whole world with Fire Discipline combo, and they're like one of the only factions that still does that, which is pretty neat, pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. We have Oracan. We have a Translocation Overlord. We might dual attach here because the Translocation Overlord makes his unit significantly faster because they get it's auto advances, I believe, for that guy. Yeah, auto advance 6. Plus, you can move through models, so you can't be pinned in melee, which is cool. Double Scorpic Lords. One of them is Veil of Darkness. What's an uppy downies? Fascinating. I wonder if that attaches anywhere. I'd be curious. Plus a Technomancer. That's triple Scorpic Lords, by the way. Or just one in the middle has the enhancement. 2 units of 20 Necron Warriors. We have a Warden? No. Oh, we do. Just kidding. Okay, so it's probably Oracan and the Royal Warden, if I had to hazard a guess. Or actually, these two have like a lot of synergy together. Oh, but you can't dual touch. It's one noble. So it has to be the Technomancer in one of those units and the Overlord in the other one. Ghost Arc. So we have double Necron Warrior squads. Basically do the same thing that the Termagants do. So if you can post up near an objective, you can constantly just be reanimating onto the objective. The other cool thing about the Necron Warriors is that they don't have the same level of restriction that the Termagants do, because they can stack their reanimation in different phases, because a lot of it's reactive to enemy shooting. So sometimes you can like take a shot, peel your casualties, then reactive reanimate slightly farther forward in another position where you aren't going to be targeted by something else, and then reanimate back onto the objective with your normal reanimation protocols. And you can also yeah, and that's what's up. And then you can buff that with the Resurrection Orbs as well. Double Crypto Thralls to go into the warrior units. Scorpic Destroyers, yeah, times 12. 2 units of 3 and a unit of 6. So all of the Scorpic Lords get Destroyers. I'm so curious about that Veil of Darkness. Does he just like up down and then hang out? It would, if it was like a utility Scorpic Lord, where you just like, we're gonna put him into a spot to do something funny, I think that would make total sense to me. I don't know if I've ever seen just a Scorpic Lord with the Deep Strike thing. The weird part about it is that it just drops you 9 inches away from enemies. And it doesn't have any charge bonuses or anything, to my knowledge. So it's like you can't rapid ingress with it. You can't like start in reserve and then redeploy it. So it's just like a unit that's just gonna bang a 9-inch charge, I guess, or like reposition itself in a weird spot. It's really curious. I'm curious about that Veil of Darkness inclusion. I guess like maybe you can use it to like stage farther forward than you could normally, because you can start the unit in the back and then just like veil into like central terrain somewhere. Rather than starting them on the table and moving them or trying to come out of reserve, which I guess could make sense if it's a 6-man. So what they're probably doing is like basically just starting these behind your home ruin and then Veil of Darknessing like behind like early game, round 1, round 2, behind a ruin that's mid-board. So they don't need to deploy it on the line to get value out of it, I imagine is what they're doing. And then they can just threaten objectives. It's probably the case. Liam Wiesel is the best codex of 10th edition. Yeah. I read a Reddit comment today. It was like, somebody was like, they should just rename LGT to VSL. And somebody was like, no. LGT stands for Liam Gets Trophies. Genestealer Cults is the last winning list of the Challengers Cup. It's an Outlander Claw, which is cool. So that's +1 OC and objective secured. +1 OC for vehicles and mounted, I believe, is the bonus. And then you also get objective secured on mounted units. So your Attilan Jackals or Atalan Jackals can run around and steal objectives from people. Which is especially good because the Jackal Scout 9. So you can, if you go first, for example, you can obsec all the mid-board objectives and then just leave. Refuse to elaborate and then leave. This also gives you a bunch of bonuses coming out of transports. So a lot of times what we see is like mass acolyte handflamers in Goliaths in the center of the table. So it's neophytes times 3, triple Goliath truck, 4 ridge runners. We have a 100% mortars. Wild. Maybe it's an Eldar matchup thing. Just like a ton of indirect fire to kill light infantry. Usually this is a laser cannon team, because then we can just like, we can mortar something and then beam the laser cannons into it. You also get a lethal hit strat on them. You get reactive moves, you get invuln saves, and you get up downs. But those don't seem, those are like, none of those are particularly useful on a mortar team. It's actually wild. I don't know if I've ever seen a 2-model mortar team. Because the other thing too is that it must be just used to clear light infantry, right? They clear your opponent's backline objective of like its 10-man, whatever, like cultist squads back there. Because the additional Ridge Runner does not apply additional instances of crossfire. So it's not giving you any army support effect. But what you could do is, I guess, set it up for crossfire with one of the other Ridge Runners. So you could like, they have survey augers. So the first one can shoot a target, strip cover, give you +1 AP. And then the second one can shoot with +1 to hit. So they actually still hit on 4s. That's probably what's happening. I imagine it's like a scoring thing. Attilan Jackals and then a bunch of Goliath Rock Grinders. So it's 6 Goliaths going up the mid board with a bunch of defensive effects. Plus, we get all of the objectives secured, both from the Atalan Jackals on turn 1 that can obsec all the like your expansion objective basically immediately, as well as potentially the center objective. But you can also be carrying around the Neophyte hybrids. That will then, you can kill the transport, disembark the Neophyte hybrids, tow the objective, and then obsec it the next turn anyway and leave. So this army just forces you to constantly move forward into it because everything is like objective secured. And then the rest of it doesn't have to engage because all its damage is indirect. It's actually really cool. I bet this unit as well is underrated because they deep strike, right? Because the whole faction deep strikes. They deep strike and objective secure. So you could just like ingress them onto an objective weirdly, or if your opponent's not looking at it, and then you just obsec it and leave. And then force them to move back onto it to take it, and then you kill them with Acolyte hybrids. That's very interesting. That's super duper different than anything we've ever seen. It does feel like the output's a little bit low. I guess the rock grinders are actually, they do quite a bit of damage. Their melee profile is pretty good. I want to say it's like 8-2-2. Excuse me. It's 8 attacks, 10-2-2. Hitting on 3s. Plus they have decent shooting. And they have a bunch of defensive strats they can use. And then they just disembark like 5 flamers at you. Or shoot them out of the firing deck as well. Need to check out what the models look like. Yeah, so the Goliaths are the big like utility vehicles. There we go. The rock grinder is this guy. So they're melee profiles because they ram you with the big plow. And then you can build it into the truck version as well. The other thing too is like their defensive profile is not too bad. They're T10 and they're really cheap. They're only 120 points for the rock grinder, and the truck's like 80. And they're high toughness, like only 10 wounds, but like not the easiest thing in the world to get rid of. Plus they carry a unit with them. Neato. And then the Ridge Runners are the light vehicles. Where those fuckers at? These little guys. The race cars. It's a cool looking list on the table. I think aesthetically, I'm not like the biggest fan of Genestealer Cult, but I think their vehicles are some of the best looking in the game. They're really cool. So like when you put all of them together, it's really sick. You love to see it. They stole them from Iron Warriors. Yeah, that's true. It's just because they're meant to be like construction vehicles, essentially, that are repurposed. This thing's sick though. I don't know what this would be used for in a construction capacity. Maybe it's like a survey vehicle. It doesn't really make sense that every single Genestealer cult has like 50 of them, but you know, I don't know. It's cool enough that it doesn't matter so much, I guess. Why do they have a base with the Votann ones don't? Probably racism, I imagine. The Votann doesn't get a base because they don't deserve it. It is weird because Sagitors are really small. They would actually be great in the base. And I live streamed a guy. It's on my members video, which was actually really cool. It was like a very good example of how bases can work on vehicles. And like it didn't really affect the gameplay at all. He wasn't using them to base measure. He was just using them to like just kind of frame the model, make them look nicer. But like you could easily have just played them with base measurement and it wouldn't have done anything. Based vehicles are based, in my opinion, is all I have to say. They're the 40k version of a Toyota Hilux. Just like a pickup. But this doesn't have 2 machine guns on it. Or this weird, this is the one that gets me. Is like, this is clearly like part of the chassis, this little cupola. The fuck? If this is a civilian vehicle, like, what the fuck is this for? Like, I don't get it. What is that? What is that doing? It's just a little place for a guy to look out? Like, what the fuck? It's so weird. It like clearly looks like it's like constructed for a military vehicle, but again, unless this is like some sort of survey vehicle. I guess maybe there's lore. Is there lore? Oh, it is a survey vehicle. They scan for resource deposits. But if you staple a bunch of guns to them and then like jury rig a laser cannon on the back, then suddenly it's actually really good. And I do love that outside of these guns, the front guns look like they could just be drilled into the hull and they just like stuck a gun out. I like that they're also like slightly off center, which is funny. The one in the back is clearly just bolted. Like they just fucking stuck it there. And we're like, I don't know. Here's a laser, I guess. Just a technical. I love it. Oh, Toyota Hiluxes are used for technicals? Okay. I see, chat. Yes. I understand. Interesting. Good stuff. Well, I think this is cool. This is a very cool result for these this team event because all of these lists are wildly unique. They are good. They're interesting both in a team format, and they are wildly different than we typically see. Obviously, like the Adeptus Sororitas list is pretty standard, but we've like Necrons with Silvertide, World Eaters with 60 Berzerkers, like much more than we typically see in singles events. Drukhari is basically all transports. Tyranids are all Horde swarm guys. Orks bully boys. Like all of these lists are just like basically way off where we would see them in a normal list. But we can clearly see. Actually interested to see. I wish this showed you player placements. All of these lists are very good at scoring. Like looks like worst case scenarios, we basically 10-10'd out basically all of these games, and then got a couple big wins to get the W. Oh, this is a draw. That looks pretty tight. But yeah, just blew stuff out and score. Is Walter Langendorf the only W there? Oh, there are 2. Ryan Verbeck, another Chad. Midwest Monsters was a good team. Match results are not outputted. They are. It's just the way the BCP chooses to showcase them. You can't go to you can go to a team and see its round results, but you can't go and see the individual game results, which is the difference. Watched a Hilux roll over from an anti-air burst. That's amazing. Tell me your guns are too strong. Whoa! Good stuff, chat. Well, folks, I'm a little tired right now, so I might cut the stream a little bit here. But huge shout out to Team Australia for taking down the Challengers Cup. RIP to every single North American team that thought they could compete. Little did they know this is we are now a Commonwealth of Australian nation now. So for sure, need a nap. Yeah, it was weird. I went to bed really early last night too, and I just like immediately fell asleep, and then now I'm tired again. It's because I had a coffee earlier. That's why I'm like crashing a little bit, I think. But it's neither here nor there. I've been like, I don't know. I think my streams are better when I have a coffee because I'm like higher energy, but then I crash afterwards and I'm like super dead for like most of the rest of the afternoon, which is also not great. So I'm not. There's a happy medium in there somewhere. I don't know where it is yet. But anyway, folks, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me. I think I think I'm gonna be live tomorrow. I'm definitely gonna be live. I have a Crusade game tomorrow afternoon, so I'm gonna be live over on the Purple channel tomorrow evening, 4 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. I also have a finals game scheduled on Saturday evening, and I'm looking at scheduling another game on sometime in the weekend. We'll definitely be live on Sunday as well. Next week, I believe I'm gonna verify right now because I think I have a PM in my thing. No, just kidding. Next week, I have on my schedule Battle for Salvation. I'm confirming that that's happening because I haven't talked to them in a while, but I believe I've live streamed them for the past couple of years, and it's always been good. So that should be the weekend after this coming weekend. I'll be heading over to New York for that, so please come hang out with me for that event. But otherwise, I think I'm going to be live tomorrow. I do have a show I want to do on Wednesdays. It just hasn't worked previously because we've had like invitational games and travel for events. I even got like graphics and stuff done for it, and I've never done it. But this week might be the week. So I think I'm going to be live same time tomorrow afternoon, and we're going to do a little bit more of a silly live stream. So I think that should be kind of fun. We'll talk about some drama stuff, and we'll talk about some other things. So I'll see you there. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today. And otherwise, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Good night, everybody.